All right. So we're back from break. So, you mentioned a few things when you introduced yourself. One of the things you talked about was sobriety.
Uh-huh.
So I know this Sunday I have an interview with I've her real name is escaping me, but her IG name is La Chopsticks. And in her thing, she mentioned her recovery.
Uh-huh.
So I know in recovery, a lot of people bring up the recovery.
Yeah.
Um, is that an important part of I guess I've either not faced the music or not aware of a problem, or I just haven't had a that severe of a problem to have to like be sober or
Mm.
say like, hey, I need to cut myself off. I'm not
Mm.
responsible or whatever the situation. Um, is is there a reason you bring it up?
Is there a reason I bring? No, I mean, you asked to like introduce myself, and I think that that's like a defining quality in myself. You know what I mean? I was for such a long time. I was um, I was a pretty useless human being. I think I would describe myself as not of use to anybody or myself or anything, and that was pretty evident of how So now that I'm on the other end of it, why not? Um, Describe myself as being useful and being in recovery and on the other end of something.
Hmm.
Um, so like on my keys, I have my like little key tags or whatever that have sobriety on them. I have little chips that with me that I
Oh,
carry
so you do it
everywhere.
through a program? It wasn't just like,
No, yeah, it's through a program.
oh,
Yeah,
that's what's
it's
up.
through a program, and I still do it today. And it's like a life. It's like it's my life basically. Without my recovery, I don't have any of this. I'm not here. I'm not at doing comedy. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't see my son. That's I get pretty hardcore with it. So it's
And it's just substances in general, or just
drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol. It was alcohol and speed.
damn.
But before that, it was alcohol and cocaine, and before that, it was just alcohol and weed and psychedelics every once in a while when they would show themselves to me. You know what I mean? And but yeah, for the most part.
Well, that's cool. I guess too. I guess in the comedy scene, a lot of people smoke pot. A lot of people do hallucinogens. A lot of people, it's just there's so many personalities in comedy that you're gonna run across probably different substance uses.
Yeah.
So I guess hopefully everybody's cool with you and not not
Yeah, everybody's actually super supportive and stuff like that, and it's to the point where like people are all like, "Oh man, I've wanted to stop drinking or this and that," and I try and tell them, it's basically kind of like that too. Is like I want people in my community and my friend group to know that if anyone's ever struggling, that they can always hit me up, and I'll I'll take them to the proper places, and then it's up to them, kind of thing. But yeah, it's like a defining kind of it's a defining thing in my life basically. It's what I base my entire life on is the principles that I've learned.
I know for myself, I've drank heavily in my life, and I mostly because of like binge drinking,
Mm.
not like any kind of like issue. I guess it's just more just not knowing how to drink, binge drinking when I was younger.
Mm.
Um, and there was times where I was just kind of like, I wouldn't say like, oh, I need to be sober, but more like I don't feel like drinking. Is the best way to put it.
Mm.
And I would go like a year. I would go several months, and I was always surprised. One, to learn who wasn't really your friend,
Mm.
because there would be the dumb fucks who would be like, oh, come on, like trying to make light of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, how about we just stay away from the subject?
Yeah.
Like we don't need to make light of it. We don't need to make it funny. We don't need to make it sad.
Mm.
How about just I don't participate?
Yeah.
That's all.
And it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. And I remember bartenders. Maybe it's a cultural thing, but I know when I was in Mexico, one time I didn't feel like drinking, and I ordered a water, and the guy asked me if I wanted a warm milk, and I remember feeling embarrassed because everybody was fucking laughing at me,
Uh huh.
but I wasn't embarrassed to the point. I mean, I have thick skin, so I was just like, all right, good one, fucker. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'll get a water. It's like, okay. And then I remember I was drinking at a bar on Veterans Day with a friend, and I I believe at that year I wasn't drinking, and so the bartender ordered a drink, and then the dude was like, "Hey, I gotta get a Coke or something." And then he was like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "So you don't drink?" I was like, "Nah." I was like, "I'm just trying not to drink for a little bit." He's like, "Oh," and he's like, "Show me his things," talking about how long he was sober and
Mm.
shit. And I was just like, "All right, cool." Most people are, most people are really supportive of it.
Yeah, it's but like I try not to like because not everybody has a problem with it, and the majority of people don't have a problem with drinking. You know what I mean? Most people could take it or leave it. You know, and even people that have like a little bit of struggle not drinking, it's like it's pretty simple. You know, it's like for instance, did your life get better or worse when you stopped drinking?
Right. My life got, I would say, better.
Yeah. See, so when I stopped drinking, my life gets worse because no, at the beginning because alcohol was my solution to all my problems. So you take away
I
my
hear that.
solution, now I'm just left with all my problems
To face where you didn't face
to
before.
face. Yeah, and then I'm in a state of hopelessness, and the only thing that I can rely upon is a higher power, or however you decided to call that.
Yeah. So was it the person that you became while on let's say alcohol that you didn't like, or just the condition of your life in general?
It was a bit of both, man. I wasn't one of those guys that was out there for fucking 20 years and shit like that. Like it went pretty quickly. Like I went from having a security job one summer to being locked up the next. You know what I mean?
Fuck.
You know, so it's like it went very quickly. You know, I went hard in the paint, I guess. You know, and it was bad. It was bad. I was 100 pounds underweight. I didn't have anything to my name basically, and just was like fucking bombed out and depleted. And even then, I didn't want to stop. Even then, I didn't want to stop. It took me like another 6 months after I kind of lost everything to finally for something to stick.
That's rough, man. I'm glad you came about whatever you did to make that decision.
Yeah.
I right now I'm on a break. I'm not really working. Um I left my social worker job, and I most of it I left it because I kind of felt the longer I did the job, the more responsibility I was being given,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not gonna win them all.
Yeah.
So it kind of dawned on me that at some point, no matter how good I got at my job, there was always gonna be that one person I saw years from now, like homeless.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
and I think I didn't want to see that, so I was like, you know what, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, that's a tough career, man. My girlfriend is actually in that kind of line of work, you know, with like psych patients and stuff like that, and it's a tough job, you know, because it's hospitals are for profit at the end of the day, and
Yeah,
it's like, but she's dealing with it at a human level, and like having to like kind of weave those two lines is a tough line to kind of to walk.
yeah. There's a lot of to the job. There's a lot of learning how to leave it at work, learning how not to carry it. Um, I went to mental health services to get ahead of it,
Mm-hmm.
and because I got ahead of it, I think it really helped me with like understanding my kids, um, dealing with the stress of the job. I think I definitely put in probably an extra year
Mm-hmm.
had I not done that, and I would have came out quitting and all fucked up
Yeah.
versus going, hey, I think I've done everything I can, and I think it's time for me to step away.
Yeah.
Um, I would get kids who had like mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get into detail, but like they would be best way to say it would be like delusional.
Mm-hmm.
They believed that they were gods.
Yeah.
Um, believed that they could teleport.
Uh-huh.
Um, could not distinguish a dream from reality.
Uh-huh.
And I had to help that kid somehow be a productive. And then it's like dealing with the politics, dealing with the whole system of bureaucracy was like it was just a uphill battle of like
Yeah.
of just not helping kids. I mean, I had a kid on fentanyl,
Mm-hmm.
like 14-year-old kid on fentanyl.
It's crazy.
Um, And I remember, I remember going to my boss, and I asked her like, I need to get this kid in a rehab. We don't have any rehabs. This kid's refusing to come into care. He wants to go to rehab though. He doesn't
Mhm.
want to be in foster care. He'll stay runaway if we try to get him in foster care. But if we put him in a rehab, he says he's willing to try that.
Mhm.
And they were like, "Can you convince him to come into foster care?" And I was like, "You haven't seen this kid in a year. I managed to befriend his parents, befriend him. He's vulnerable. He's telling me that this is what he wants.
Mhm.
You have had zero contact with this kid, and now he's calling me actively wanting to go to rehab.
Yeah.
And you're telling me to get him into the thing that's gonna tell him, well, I told you I didn't want to go into foster care, and you put me into foster care. Fuck you, you know."
Mhm.
It's kind of just how it works. And so I was kind of really bummed out about that situation.
Yeah,
And
there are programs though for like at-risk youth and stuff like that, and people in predicaments like that. There's like
yeah,
the
current
TAY
behavioral
the TAY program and stuff
yeah,
like that. And
there's TAYs, there's outpatient services from K Bear. He was wanting like specific care, and uh, I remember going to to my boss, and they were like no, we're not gonna do that.
yeah.
And I'm like, well, what's the other option? He's
Mhm.
just gonna not talk to us. What's a hurt? What's a hurt to send this kid to rehab? And if he decides to run away, then that's on him. You know, that's his drug addiction.
Yeah.
But if we just go, we didn't give it to him, we didn't try, then that's kind of, to me, it was like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
You let him trip on his own, you know? No,
Yeah.
But anyways, so stuff like that. And I think I got to the point where I was like, man, these cases are getting fucking wild, bro.
Yeah. That's
I had kids trying to kill their caretakers, and like fucking nuts, bro.
yeah.
Fucking, I remember people who got paid way more than me would like talk about how in training they would talk about my cases
Mhm.
to them,
That's hardcore.
and I would be like, that's fucked up because you get paid like $10 more. I mean, fuck.
Yeah.
But anyways, to walk away from all that gloomy shit, um, my brother, he's struggled through addiction. He was on meth and coke and shit like that, and he had hit like rock bottom several times.
Yeah.
I remember one time he got stabbed 14 times, and he was sober for a little bit, and then he just relapsed, and
Yep.
then lost his kids, lost his wife, lost his job, went to jail, and then he fixed his life up, but like he can't backtrack all that shit, you know.
Yeah.
He's never gonna have those years with his kids.
Yeah.
His wife's already moved on.
The thing with meth too is like there's a scary statistic that like the majority of almost all meth related deaths, like there's no overdose on meth. You know what I mean? The majority of it is violence perpetrated on or against them. You know, like stabbings, getting hit by cars, killing yourself by fucking, you know, trying to steal copper wire. That's all the deaths that are on meth. So you just like have to like, for the most part, you end up just kind of living with in this like squalor. You know what I mean? And you're just living in it, and it's terrible. It's a terrible. It's terrible. It's inhumane. It's like it's the most inhumane. I mean, I've never done heroin or anything like that. I'm not. I like going fast.
Let's do it, bro.
No better time than the present, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like kind of the depths of like living that I did was like just like so different. Like, you know, it's just like the what I was willing to live in was insane to me. You know what I mean? And like, you know, I was never like homeless. You know, I spent like maybe a couple days like behind stores and shit like that. But for the most part, I would kind of just like go from friend to friend's house, you know? It's like when they got tired of me, I'd be like, all right, I'll see you later. And then I'll go to this person, and all right, I'll catch you later. And then go back over here and just kind of.
I see. Yeah, that's a different picture too. That's getting pretty bad. I had a friend that I worked with, and he told me the story, and I swear, I don't fuck with drugs because of this guy.
Mhm.
He just told me this story, and I was like, I already kind of like I'd seen people on drugs, and I just didn't really care for it. Weed not too bad, cigarettes, beer, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I've done ayahuasca, shit like that, mushrooms.
Yeah.
You know, tried different things, but never as a hobby any of these things. And so this friend of mine, this guy that I worked with, he's like telling me the story that he was living in Los Angeles and he had his own house and he was really happy about how well he was doing in life.
Mm.
You know, just kind of overachieving, right? And just make sure everything's still recording. I got to check every once in a while. So he's telling me that, you know, he's living in LA, he's having a great life. And his mother comes to visit him. And so he's so fucking happy because he hasn't seen his mom in a while. So he's like telling his mom, like, Mom, like, you know, I just been wanting you to see my house and how well I'm doing, and I just want you to be proud of me and how well I've been doing, and I'm glad you're here to see it. And he says that his mom just fucking burst into tears and fucking just hugged him as hard as she could, and that fool, he said that it was like a almost like a movie. The walls melted, and then he just realized he was in an abandoned home. Everything stripped, fucking no windows, fucking just, he was on meth, fucking living in this abandoned house, and his mom had tracked him down and was like trying to get him to come home.
Wow.
And he's like, dude, he's all I think he said
that's a full on psychosis. It's
yeah, it was bad. But I remember him telling me, and just like the fuck, I want to tear up just the way he told me, man. I was like, fuck, bro. Yeah. I was that bad. He was like, bro, it was fucking bad, bro. He's like, I was out of it. Like he's like, he could have swore that was his life. And then like, that break right there was just like, what the fuck? He said he just burst into tears. Got himself enrolled in a rehab. He went into rehab with a friend of his. It's almost like a fucking movie. They got a bunch of crazy shit that happened to them. They had to eat apples for like a week straight, and had to get like applesauce up their ass, and just a bunch of fucking random stories of like running down the hall with fucking applesauce coming out with turds and shit. Just fucking random shit. But that itself was like, God damn, that is fucking hard, bro. Hard. I have my niece recently.
Fucking apples. Had to eat a bunch of apples. That rehab took the term "eat an apple a day" to keep the doctor away a little too literally, or what? Fucking.
It was like their thing. He said like everything was apples. They ate apples. Everything was apple made, and they had
so weird.
they the whatever they call it, the colonoscopy, whatever fucking the water shit up your ass was like apple water.
Some of the shit some of these rehabs fucking think is gonna help people.
He said they had to scrub daily. Like he said they would like sit there and then they would tell them to like scrub, and so they would jump in the shower and they just like fucking scrub and scrub and scrub and scrub, and they said they just try to get it raw because they were trying to like get the flesh off because the flesh had toxins. And I was like, you're only gonna get that uppermost cell, and if you have, I mean, I don't know how drugs work in the system.
Not like that.
It's distributed everywhere, right? Yeah, it's not just on like the upper layer of your skin.
No, that's
well, anyways.
Crazy. That's just as crazy as fucking going out and doing drugs is going to like fucking eat apples for, you know, that's just as insane, you know what I mean? But teach their own. If they help people, they help people.
He ended up he'd been sober since, so I think it had been like about 10 years he had been sober, and he was still dealing with his meth use because like you could tell when you talk to him that he had like some like kind of tics that he had done, like some hard drug use, in his personality as well, but also debt. He had like run up credit cards. He had hit a telephone pole and he owed like $10,000 for it or something, like a crazy amount of money that he had been lying on his taxes so he could get more money and so he could buy drugs, and he had been claiming he had like 13 kids or some shit. Bunch of ridiculous shit, man. So I mean, overall though, you called it quits on time. Not obviously not too late, right?
I was lucky enough to where like I kind of just stepped away. Like the way I would do it is I would like get as far away from my family as I could, because I was like out of sight, out of mind. But it was always the opposite, you know what I mean? But I was lucky enough to where I never really got into. I like calling it like white collar crime. like kind of like scamming people or like stealing mail. I never got into any of those because those ones you accrue debts and shit, like, you know, like that. I was kind of, call me old school, but I was more of like just like kind of pull people out of their cars kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Kind of real
What?
old school. You know, like, you know, just
GTA?
I mean, no, I almost got away with it once and it didn't really work out for me. But more like just robbing other nefarious people. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But I would get robbed all the time. It was like a game of cat and mouse. Like if you're like, the only reason I got to that is because I got so tired of getting done. You know, it's like, man, what the fuck? It's like, fuck these fools. And then it got to a certain point where I was like, all right. And like you get into like this like level.
That's a
like,
whole other cycle of
yeah, it's like, man, fuck these motherfuckers. It's like, it's very. I was talking about it the other day to my girlfriend, and I was like, man, I feel like I need to go to therapy because like I feel like I have like PTSD about certain things. You know, like I get like overwhelming like fear sometimes, like just in certain situations where I'm in certain places and I see certain kinds of people, I'm all like, I get scared, like just because it was like a different lifestyle and I'm not equipped for that lifestyle anymore. I've hung up my jersey. You know what I mean? I'm not equipped for that anymore. I don't roll that way. You know, and it's just like it's certain moments where it's like fuck, and it's like it's rough. It's like I did a tour of duty out there in the fucking streets, and I'm not built for it. You know what I mean? That's not how I was raised.
Well, I think the best way to put it, and there's even a map of it. That's my first session with my therapist. He like told me how the brain works and shit. So, so pretty much, you were trying to survive.
Yeah.
And your brain had to tell itself whatever it had to tell itself so that whatever you were doing worked. And then when something happened where you went off that track, your brain never rewrote itself. It's just been kind of winging it.
Yeah.
You know, it's winging it and you're surviving, so it doesn't matter to you. But there will be a point. No, I shouldn't say there will be a point. When there's trauma that hasn't been addressed, there will be a point where all the elements there for you to have like a breakdown, or you have like a response you would normally not give, you know, snapping at somebody or whatever the fuck, you know, you can let it go that way. So you just kind of like have to watch it. Therapy was cool, man. I really liked it. I really liked it. Even going to group therapy, I think when I went to therapy, I thought it was like kind of a crock of shit. You know, this guy was just like asking me random questions. But what I found was that when he was talking to me, I was raising my voice a lot.
Yeah, like defensive.
No, not it. Just what I was trying to get off my chest or how I felt, because he would ask me questions about, like, I would say like, man, it's like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know, just you know, working my 9 to 5. You know, I'm using my vacation time right now to go come in and do the session or whatever the fuck. And he would ask me like follow-up questions, and then it would lead to like, you know, what's bothering me. It's like, oh, today I just had a bad day, and you know, like, well, what triggered it? What, and then we just have discussions about like the different things that would like trigger my anger or trigger my distrust of somebody. A lot of mine of growing up, I by no means am like a gang guy, right?
Yeah.
But I grew up in a situation where, you know, you get bullied or you stand up for yourself. I was never someone to bully people, but I was definitely someone to defend myself. And so in those situations, sometimes you develop a certain reaction to certain things. You know, when someone talks to you a certain way, then you nip it in the butt, right? Hey, we're gonna nip this conversation right now because you're not gonna be fucking talking to me like that.
Yeah.
Why? Because you think if I let him talk to me like that, then everybody's gonna talk to me like that.
Yeah.
You know, so those are things that I never really realized that people think like when you grow up in certain environments. And so I remember one day my boss was talking to me, and something about my boss was just like, I felt like, oh man, this fool pissed me off because he criticized my work or he criticized me or something, and so that's why he pissed me off. I'm like, whatever. So I'm like talking to the therapist about it. Anyways, long story short, we go around and around, and then like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this fool pisses me off because I know I'm in a different environment, and my survival technique is different, or it's obsolete in this situation.
Yeah.
Whereas before, when someone talked to me a certain way, I couldn't show weakness, and so I would have to talk back to them a certain way or escalate it, right? Because I couldn't show weakness. And then you go into a professional place where someone talks to you a certain way, and they're not talking to you that way because they have hierarchy or because they'll fucking kill you, or they're a threat to you, or they're bigger than you, or whatever. You know, the normal, like, I'm not gonna
Like the
I'm
normal rules of the jungle kind of
yeah,
shit.
right. And so now this guy's talking to me this way, and I'm like, can't compute in my head how to talk to him, because if I raise my voice, I'm a problem now.
Yeah.
You know, there's my normal ways of facing my problems, or that flight or fight situation is not the same anymore. And so where I could be like, oh, there's a way to argue with this guy, there's a way to talk to this guy, I would just be like, this will not know I could fuck him up talking to me like that. And then and so then I had to like check myself, and so then after that I just like checked myself, and I ended up not liking him just because his personality. I ended up just not liking him for his personality. But
well, the like the majority of like reactions, everything, it all comes from a place of fear. Like that's where everything it comes from, like any kind of emotion, like anger.
I don't want to get bullied.
Yeah, it's all a byproduct of fear of you know, being alone. That's why someone sticks with somebody for so long, or you know, fear of success. People are afraid of success, and they sabotage themselves before they get to a certain point.
Isn't that crazy?
And it all comes from a sense of fear, you know. And like that's like my biggest thing is like I'm no longer afraid of the past or of the future. And I no longer regret the past. And sometimes, you know, I'm in and out of that sometimes. You know what I mean? Sometimes I do regret the past, and sometimes I am afraid of the future. But today I'm able to like kind of check myself, ground myself, and kind of reach out to a higher power and stuff like that.
I would recommend it, man. If you ever got a chance.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of looking into it. But
it's not as expensive as you would think. I think if you want a decent dude, or chick, whatever, doesn't really matter, but a therapist.
I want it to be non-binary actually.
It's like $60, bro. Like
really for a session?
For a session, like $60.
That's not bad. I spent more on less. You know what I mean? Because I've heard the big issue though is that like it's easy to like kind of open someone up, but if a therapist doesn't know how to like put it all back together and just leaves you, it could leave you in a worse spot than when you got there.
So that is true. Well, I wouldn't say that's true exactly, because I'm not in the area, but I would agree that you definitely open up some shit, and you have to like, because I remember like when I first started, a lot of it was like not wanting to accept it, and then once I started realizing like, oh fuck this shit. Like, yeah, this is right. I am repeating certain things, or even if like he would tell me like, oh, did you ever think that was because of this or that you got angry? And I'd be like, nah. And then something would happen, and I would get angry, and I would like backtrack like what in my day happened.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah, it is from having expectations or high expectations, or it does come from a frustration of feeling abandoned, and then when someone doesn't fulfill what they say they're going to do, then it brings back those feelings of you know, that you never settled and shit.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was a lot of like abandonment issues, and then not like, oh, I'm fucking lonely and
no,
shit.
Yeah.
But just like things you don't even realize. Like I when I became a social worker, when I was doing my routines, I'd go see my kids once a month and make sure they ate, make sure they were doing well in school. Like I realized that like that's how my mom took care of me. Like I didn't live with her. I lived alone in my house. Like she would come and check in on me and like see if I had food and make sure I paid the bills on my own. I'd go pay my own bills, and so that drive of like I can't wait around for people. Like I just need to figure it out. Right?
Yeah.
And so I figured out how to pay my own bills. I figured out how to get myself to school. I figured out how to feed myself. I figured out how to cook. Figured out how I just did it all on my own. And so then throughout my whole life, I've always been like that. I don't like working in groups. Why? Because you're not going to pick up your fucking slack. I'm going to have to pick up your slack. We're going to get into a fight about it, and you're not going to like it. And so why bother?
Yeah.
And so, but those are all the shit you tell yourself, right? So all those things you kind of work out. And also group therapy, I think, was like the real breaking point where I was like, oh, fuck, this all makes sense now. Because, man, you might think you have some fucking problems, bro, but there's some fools out there that got some fucked up shit going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, like you see women, or you see and talk to women who, like, were just bad, bro. Just a series of fucked up and generational shit. And you're just like, God damn. but you also see kind of like how toxic certain mindsets are,
Mm-hmm.
because you got to be able to frame your thinking a certain way, and if you don't know how to do that, you just kind of like, it's like cyclical. You just get more and more depressed.
Yeah,
And
you
shit.
can't constantly be the victim, or
Yeah, and even if you are the victim, it's like, so what?
the thing that
Move
like
forward.
the thing that like I've been taught is that you always, no matter what, no matter whatever happened, you always had some part to play in it. There's always something that like there was your part in it. There's always two sides of the street. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. It's very philosophical of like, you might, this addiction might have me, this depression might have me, but you can only have so much. I have my mentality. I have to capture that. I'm in control of that, how I perceive things and how I see things. There was a guy when I used to do this podcast called Philosophy Kings, and he would do a rehab situation with some of his friends who were also former addicts,
Uh-huh.
and they would practice stoicism.
Yeah. There's a
And
lot of there's actually a lot of similarities between Stoicism and the program. A
which is
lot.
scary, but if you actually like philosophy and you study stoicism, it's kind of sketchy. But
Really?
well, because in stoicism, if you can't solve your problem, or if your problem is, there's no problem with suicide in stoicism.
Okay.
There's no like right or wrong about it. It's more just like, if you feel your life sucks that much, just fucking kill yourself. Like
So
there's
it could
no
be used for the opposite.
I mean, for someone who's on like hitting rock bottom and shit like
Yeah.
that, if they're not able to see the other side, they could probably use it for, excuse to like harm themselves or some
Yeah,
shit. I could see that maybe happening.
Because in early recovery, I like would listen to a lot of like those YouTube, like the Daily Stoics and stuff like
I
that.
thought you were gonna say death metal or some shit.
No,
It's
no,
like,
no. And they talk about like why can't I fucking think of his name? The main guy. No,
there's
don't tell me. Hold on. Marcus Aurelius.
Yes.
And his meditations or whatever, and they would talk a lot about his stuff. And I remember a lot of those things.
Actually.
Yeah, Seneca. They would like things that they would say, like their little things would really help me out in my early sobriety and stuff. And like I can't remember specifically which ones, but there's some things like was it Memento Mori? Whereas like if you think of, it's like basically Memento Mori is like the opposite of like, instead of fearing death kind of thing, consider death as the past. But that's not Memento Mori. Memento Mori is the expecting the worst outcome and in preparedness. So that if that's the worst thing, then it's like then like don't like seek it, but expect it. And if it happens, then it's no big deal. It's just what it is, and you're prepared for it. And then there's like the other one where they is like death isn't in front of us, it's behind us. Every second that we waste, or every second of time that goes by is a second we'll never get back. So that is death. Death is behind us. So it's like kind of like make every moment count.
You ever been like a big old philosophy head or interested in philosophy?
Yeah, like I'm into philosophy in a sense, but not like like practicing, kind of thing,
Do you feel with like comedy you have like your place?
What do you mean?
Like just like where you're meant to be? Is it a comedy? Is it a culinary school? Is it?
I love comedy, man. I really do. I love comedy, and I like. It's not so much as like, oh, I make people laugh. It's like I'm helping them escape too, and I'm giving them an opportunity to kind of forget what they're thinking about, whatever is going on with them, and then kind of go into my mindset and kind of laugh at it. How I'm laughing at it, and that's how I kind of see it. Because I love comedy, man. I love going up in front of people and talking, and then everyone's listening. And it's like, because I could kind of move a group of people. I have a gift of gab kind of thing, I can move a group of people in this way or the other. I've spoke at like about my sobriety and stuff at length, and I'm crying. The people there are crying, and it's moving. It's moving as a together. There's a common consciousness when you're in a room like that, and I feel I get that same thing in comedy, to where you get that pop and everyone's on the same page, and it's just a collectiveness, that everybody knows exactly where it's going and they're just ready for it, and it's just that pop, and it's just that I don't know how to explain it.
It's just everything seems like it's kind of listening to an orchestra, right? You're doing all the parts, and
Yeah.
if everything just comes together, then it's just this magnified sound, right? Versus
Yeah.
just these small individual
Mm-hmm.
beats and stuff. But when
Yeah.
it's all when it all comes together, it's something else. I've seen it in um, I've seen it in government jobs where someone who's higher up, people kind of like talk shit about them. Like, fuck them. They're just there because they kiss ass, or
Mm-hmm.
they're there because they fucking whatever, some type of nepotism or whatever excuse people
Mm-hmm.
can hate on you about. But then I'll be in situations where shit hits the fucking fan and nobody knows what the fuck to do, and the person who's in charge is like, "You're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. We're gonna wait for this response, then we'll do this, and we'll do this, and we'll that. In the meantime, get this ready.
Yeah.
We'll come back here. We'll come back here to was it? We got Thursday, 4 o'clock. Does that work for everybody? Okay, all right. You do the notes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like it all just kind of comes together, and it's all
Yeah.
it flows, and you kind of I've sat in meetings and I've observed someone coordinate like
Mm-hmm.
the effort that we need to do and give out the tasks, and there's no like, what do you guys think? It's just like
Yeah.
it's like boom, 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 boom,
And there's a sense of ease and comfort in the room.
and that they know what they're doing. They
Yeah.
have control of what's going on. You just need to do your part.
And then everybody else knows that that guy knows. And it's like, okay, we're good kind of thing, you know?
And it's and I would agree with that. There's definitely that in comedy. There's that in riffing. Even when doing interviews, there's interviews that are kind of just like there's a conversation we're definitely going, and there's other conversations that just kind of like you can feel the difference. My stepdad, I grew up working construction with him,
Mm.
and while I worked for him, he was a construction manager, and so we would be on sites, and every once in a while, he always listened to NPR in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be in the morning, I would be doing all the files that had a fax, and I'd be moving things around, and he would turn the music down and then just stop for a second, and then he turned the music back on and then go back to work. And I was like, what the fuck is he doing? So I caught on to what he was doing. I thought he was praying at first.
Uh-huh.
And so then another time I was like, what are you doing? He's like, he turned it off and he's like, what do you hear? I was like, the forklift's over on that side of on the east parking. And then sounds like the drywall going up over on by the preschool, whatever we're building.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay. So what does that tell you? I was like, what do you mean? I was like, today's drywall. They got to forklift all the material that way. And we're just doing what we're doing. He's like, yeah, so everything's on time. And I'm like, well, yeah. He's like, yeah, well, that's how I know. I just listen. I can hear it.
Yeah.
I should hear the forklift. I should be hearing so and so pulling in.
Mm-hmm.
I should be hearing all these things by now. Or if I'm hearing this, then we're ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, oh fuck, okay.
Kind of cool. That's
So
like a
it was just-
philosophical, like, you could get some philosophical, like, motives out of that. You know what I mean?
Or even the drywall guys, he did not mind paying you overtime or giving you bonuses for finishing your work on early, because he calculated it where he would still be making money. So like,
Yeah.
why try to milk it out of you to work your regular hours? Like, if I'd rather get this done today and I get more of my money,
Yeah.
or I get whatever incentive he has to finish early too.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would do the same. You got any questions for me? I know I asked a bunch of questions about you. We'll wrap it up.
Let's see. When you come back to comedy, man.
I think I've always been with comedy. I've always kept trying it. While I did stop doing the open mics here, and I wasn't invited to do any of the shows, I was doing shows out of town, and so I was still continuing. Nothing like frequent, nothing really to brag about. I mean, I'm proud of the work I did, but it's nothing like whatever. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm definitely trying to make it to the mics.
Yeah.
I don't think I can make it to the Wells, kind of not far, but it's just kind of, I want to be consistent. So likely I'll just be doing Timbler, the Canoodle Studio, the one on Mondays.
Yeah.
Not the Joke Jitsu, the
Joke's on you.
Jokes on You. Roast Battle Joke. I don't know. They changed the name a couple times. The Jokes on You one, I'll do that one on Mondays. Wednesdays, I'll do the Timbler and then run over and do the Laughing Stock, if they start on time. And then I think that's all I got right now until until they get more shows going. But I do want to make it out more, do a couple more shows. I think right now my focus is kind of getting my own podcast going. I've done a couple of them before, but I had to go like somewhere,
Yeah.
and I just kind of didn't want to do that anymore because I used to
Mhm.
have to go to Canoodle Studio to do my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So now I just do it here.
Yeah, this is a cool setup you got here, man.
Yeah, everybody keeps telling me that. I'm really it was a series of fortunate events of like sales on Amazon and
Yeah.
and just having extra funds because I wasn't working, just kind of chilling. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, I got some extra funds. Why not buy fucking some cameras and shit
Yeah.
I can use?
That's cool.
And like I said, I'm not renting it out, but I'm definitely recording other people's podcasts and then just giving them the raw
Mhm.
footage, just giving it to them, and then as long as they have like one of these things,
Yeah.
and then they just do with it whatever the fuck they want.
Cool.
And then been doing like murals, been doing like art. I've been doing art for quite a while.
I saw you have all those spray cans and stuff right there. Did you start tagging and then?
I don't know how to tag.
Uh-huh.
I do more like that, like stencils like that,
Okay.
or like stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been since when the pandemic hit, it kind of made me kind of just like take a step back and chill, not be so like I want to be successful and I want to be like successful at comedy.
Mm-hmm.
More, it was just more like, why did I get into it? And I think it was more like what you said. I don't want to be famous. I really enjoy making someone laugh, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in a world where people get shits and giggles from being in pain to people, like to want to make people happy and laugh and shit.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to get back into it.
Yeah, we'll get back, man. We're always looking for more people. Always looking.
And like I said, like you said it too, the great scene, man. Really,
Yeah.
really good scene right now to be doing comedy. Hopefully, you guys can get some more shows going, and then I think right now is just kind of seeing in the next year with the 2 clubs, see what kind of comedians come through town.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking sure like whoever comes into town is gonna start swooping you guys up.
Yeah, we're building it slowly, man. Building it slowly but surely. You know, turtle wins the race, right?
Any aspirations to have your own comedy club or do a comedy special or anything?
All in due time, God's timing, not mine, kind of thing. You know what I mean? But you know, in a short answer, yes. You know, but nothing in the books. You know what I mean? Just as it happens, is how it happens. You know what I mean? Like I've kind of been told, or like being sober or whatever. There's a comedy scene of sober people, you know, in LA. That's like, oh man, like you could kind of maybe help your career a lot. And it's like that I didn't get sober so to help my career, you know. It's like I kind of that's kind of taking advantage, I feel like, of my position, you know what I mean? So I just, as things naturally happen, they naturally happen, you know, and they have. And as of today, my career, if that's what you want to call it, is has been beneficial to just me being me and just me being in the right place at the right time and just being the person that I am. So I'm just going to continue to do that, and just how shit happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Cool. Where can everybody catch you if they want to either see you, buy your stuff, stalk you?
All right, let's see. So you can find me at Julian Nieto 44 on Instagram, Julian Nieto on Facebook. You find me Julian Nieto Comedy on TikTok. I don't really post much there, but you're more than welcome to check me out. You could check out Try It Out Open Mic on Instagram and Facebook. You'll be able to find links to those in my main Instagram. Also, make sure and follow Bad Neighbor Comedy. We'll be putting on shows here October 27th and November 23rd at the Well Comedy Club. October 27th is going to be a live podcast. It's going to be super dope. Make sure and check it out. November 23rd is going to be I believe a Bakersfield All-Stars comedy show where we're going to be having a barn burner of a show. Everyone's going to be in town. You want to make sure and check that out. And also make sure and follow us all as we do this weight loss journey over the next 6 weeks. My name is Julian Nieto. Thank you guys.
Is there anybody you recommend to interview that maybe I don't know, haven't met? Because I don't think I follow everybody. I know there's a few people that follow me, which is always funny how like I haven't done any comedy in town, and they're like, "Why is this guy following me? He doesn't even know who the fuck I am." Or,
Yeah.
Or how the fuck does he know who I am?
Have you hit up Marcos?
I have not. Mostly because I've never had a chance to like just kind of bullshit with him a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. So like to like be like, hey, um,
I would definitely get Anthony on the books, Marcos.
Anthony, I don't know what that guy's. I don't know if he's bad with returning messages or some shit, but
He kind of is.
he was like, I've sent him like he'll be like, hey, send me a date. So I send him the dates, and then like, oh my bad, bro. How about this date? I was like, oh, I already booked it. How about this date? It just keeps going, and it just keeps repeating.
Yeah. No one really, man, but I'll keep an eye out, man. And if I could think of anybody, I'll let him know. Send him your way.
For sure, man. All right,
Yeah.
we just gotta call it quits because it's getting fucking hot in here. I
Sweet.
don't know why.